All right. Well, welcome to the 7 days to finding your soulmate challenge. So, just a few things. If you just logging in, don't forget to put your name, give us, where you're from, and then throughout the entire call today or session today, feel free to submit any questions that you have. But we're going to jump right in it today because we got a lot of stuff to cover. Again, this is day 4 of the 7 days to finding your soulmate challenge. So, if you haven't got the other dates, go back, watch those. There is a lot that is available to you already, complimentaries and completely free for you to be able to really go through that and use that to help you find your soulmate. So, let's move on. And we are going to start with today's topic. So for today's topics, we've got the intro that we're going to start with. I'm going to cover vision. I think vision is something super, super powerful that a lot of people don't spend enough time doing that. And I've got some great exercises to walk you through to really do that. And this is one of those things that when my clients go through this exercise with me, personally, they get crystal clear on who their soulmate is and why they want their soulmate. And when that happens for them, they start attracting that. In fact, I've seen quite often this is one of those things that once they get this, it's like their engine just kicked into a whole nother gear that they didn't even know was available to them. So that's what we're going to cover today. We'll do a little Q&A, and then I also have a special guest that I asked to join us today to share his story. And so we'll see if that connects well. If it does, you guys are in for a super super treat. And then we'll wrap it all up and do a little summary and everything. So let's jump right in today's session. And the first thing we're going to cover is, did you do your homework? Of course. Of course, I was going to ask you that. As a coach, it's a love-hate relationship. If you don't do your homework, you're not going to get the results, right? So, like I've said on the other days, if you did do your homework, congratulations for, really being in the game and causing yourself to find your soulmate and attract your soulmate much quicker than you would without doing the homework. And people that do their homework are extraordinary people, and I think that's very, very important because not too many people can do their homework. A lot of times they say, yeah, I know that, or I've already done that, but have you done it in this moment? And the likelihood is not, because every time we're in a new moment, we're a different person. So do your homework, get that done. If you remember my analogy of playing tic tac toe with kids, don't make yourself wrong with it. Just play the game again. And if you didn't do your homework, well, I'm sure you had a lot of great, great reasons why you didn't do that. And yes, that's typical of what a normal person would do. Someone that's not super serious in finding their soulmate, someone that's just hoping that that soulmate will come. And so make sure you do your homework. If you didn't do that, I'm giving you a blank slate. So I'm erasing all the grades, and you've got till tomorrow to get your homework done and catch on up. So, be that extraordinary person, because I know if you do the work for that, you will get the results. So, all right. So, do you want to be normal? Do you want to be extraordinary? It's your choice, right? Do you want to find your soulmate quicker, or do you just want to find your soulmate someday? It's really your call. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move right into it. So, the first thing I think is super crucial is you want to know, like, why is it that I want to find my soulmate? And, one of my mentors shared with me this question, which is, what's important about finding my soulmate to you? And that's very important. You want to ask you that question. What's important about finding my soulmate to you? And when you start to answer that, you're going to find that you can get to the core of your personal values and what really matters to you in a very short time. And when you're clear on your kind of, you've probably heard this like your big why of why this is important to you, then you're more likely to do the actions that you need to, like doing your homework, like being extraordinary. You're more likely to do that if you're crystal clear on what's important to you about all this. Not just, it's important for me to find that person that, but what's important about doing that? And, and then what's important about the next step, and really drill down to your core until you get to a place of self-actualization. And that's very, very important. In psychology, this is well known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's important that you really clarify these things. Most of the time people skip this steps, like I already know this, and it's a big thing to skip that. I mean, if you're not crystal clear on this, you're just not running at all the gears that's possible for you. So this is a step that I would not forget. And in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's those physiological need, or the physiological needs that you have there. There's the safety needs, your love and belonging needs. And then, of course, you reach those esteem type needs and self actualization needs. So you can Google it. I mean, there's tons of pyramids that show the different levels and what they all mean. But the core of it is for you to get to your core of why that is important to you. Like why you really want to have that soulmate. What is it? What is it that's important about that? And, what's the importance of you really, living your ideal life and having everything that really truly matters to you? And I think that's very crucial. I think that's an important piece that you definitely need to know. And you don't want to skip that because it's very, very important to not skip that piece. So that's step number one. And this is crucial. Like I said, some people get this and they find everything that they need so much quicker in finding their soulmate just from this little exercise of doing this. So it's important not to miss that. And so, how do you identify your soulmate? This is another key element that I think is very, very important because most people will tell you the answer to that is, well, you need to just make a list of everything that you want in your soulmate. And that's true. I think that's a very good start, right? I mean, we've all done that. Some of us do it way too much than we could. Like you have this big long list, of 100 or 20, or 50 different elements that you want for your soulmate. And it's got to be all of those, right? And when you start to think about that, you start narrowing down so much that you don't even give yourself a chance to really find your soulmate. And because it's so broad of all the things that you want, it's very difficult to really see that soulmate when they're right in front of you because you're trying to, calculate these 100 items on your checklist. So, although it's a very good idea, it's just something you really got to hone into. And, one of my mentors always said success starts with a list. And I totally agree, it does. And you want to make sure that that list is clear and it's been prioritized so that you know precisely what are the core elements of that list that must get done. The ones that make the biggest difference. You know, if you're in a car, having an engine is much more important than having a stereo when your goal is to get to a destination. So you really want to think of it from that perspective, right? You want to look at it is, am I taking that big list and narrowing it down to the core things that matter most to me? And my advice is that you only pick, your top 5 qualities and attributes that you're looking for in your soulmate. That's right. I said top 5 of those qualities or attributes or values that you have on your checklist. Then, and any more of that is probably way, way too much. So you really got to think about that because a lot of times, if your list is so big, it's kind of hard to find it. So imagine going to a friend and saying, "Yeah, I'm looking to buy a new car. I'm trying to find, a BMW. It's got to be, 2018 or older. It's got to be this model. It's got to be, this color on the inside, this color on the outside. It's got to have these features. It's got to have, BBS gold rims. It's got to have, 20-inch rim. You can go on and on with the list, right? And can imagine that, like I tell my friend, this is it. This is the list. It's, like 100 items, right? And then I say, so if you see one like that, please let me know and give me a call, right? And your friend might bump right into one that has a for sale sign on it. And he starts to think about, well, what's all those things he wants? Oh, I don't think he really wanted this color, so forget it, right? And the list is so big that it stops. And that color could easily be changed. It's not a deal breaker, right? You can get a paint job. So you got to really look that, am I giving too much and setting it way too big and too broad that it's messing everything up, to the point where I'm not getting any introductions or no one's finding anything out there, including yourself, right? You have such a broad, it's very difficult to find, like, where's my list? Does this person even fit this? Or how am I going to even qualify this person in front of me if they're my soulmate or not when I don't have my big long list? So my advice, narrow it down to only your top 5 qualities or attributes or values that are deal breakers for you. Like if those things were there, like everything else in the future would be in alignment to that. Like everything else would alter all of those things. So that's important that you really recognize that. I think that's crystal clear. That the smaller and more precise and really the deal breaker type items are the things you're looking for. Then when you go out on a date and you already know that those deal breakers are all there, then you start to explore what else is there. Is there a connection? Is there simpatico? Is there a sense of love on both sides? Do you fit their top 5, right? You got to learn that stuff, but first you got to be in the right place with the right people. And I think a lot of times, we miss that step. I see it all the time when I'm working with people. They feel like going out on a date is a movement forward. Well, if they don't really meet your qualities, you're really just wasting time. And I think that's the piece that most people lose out is and then they, after, wasting time multiple times, eventually they get to a point where they're just going to give up. Like it's why bother, right? And then it goes into the hope stage where everybody just, well, I'm just going to wait for the universe to deliver it and hope that that will come, and it might be a year, it might be 2 years, it might be, 5 years, whatever, but it doesn't hit, right? So that's crucial that you don't fall into that trap. And, the key is just those top 5 only. So, and I promise you, this way will make it easier for you and for others to really remember who it is that you're looking for in your soulmate. And believe me, if you're clear on communicating that and you're clear for yourself of what that is, it's much easier for you to qualify and meet the right people and attract the right people, especially if you've done your homework from all the other days that we've already talked about, because all those things build up to these core elements of doing this. All right. So make sure you go back and start doing some of the other things that we talked about in the previous days, because all of that is like building momentum and will give you, a lot more speed and clarity and ability to attract your soulmate immediately. So that's all I want to say about that. I think that's pretty crystal clear. I mean, examples. I can give you an example, of my top five. People always ask me this. Is probably the most common question that I get when I tell people, I went on 43 dates in 120 days, all by introductions from my friends, and they say, how'd you do that? And I said, well, I told them what I was looking for, the top five qualities and attributes that I was looking for in my soulmate. And then I asked them, do you know anyone like that? And if they did, then we'd have a conversation about that. And if they didn't, then I would follow up with them and say, well, maybe you'll meet that person, in the next week. Or why don't you just think about it? It's just these top five things. And those things are very easy for people to remember, and they could easily go, oh, that matches Jeff. Maybe I should introduce her to him. And and so anyhow, that's one of the core things. So let me just share those with you. I get these questions all the time. So my top five was: one, she had to be athletic. She had to be working out, 3 to 5 times a week, or I would say that she's an active in some sort of sport like soccer or tennis or whatever she did. She was active in that. It was more of a league type thing, And if she didn't do that, she was always at the gym. So, and I would always say, do you know someone that's like that? She's the type of woman that does that all the time. And, that was an important aspect for me because I'm athletic and I love to play sports and I love to be around other athletic people. And so that was one of my top five. The second one was a career, meaning she enjoyed her career she was in, and she could support herself. I mean, she was independent. She could take care of herself. I mean, I like to take care of them, my soulmate as well, but I also want to know that they can take care of themselves and they can take care of me. And it was important to me because I wanted to have a family and I wanted someone that, had that independent trait that really, we would connect together with that. So that was good. And then the third one I always said was self development and personal growth. So this is a woman that enjoys taking education classes, weekend seminars. She reads a lot. She does motivation. She reads motivational books. She's always looking to better herself. She's that type of person. And then my fourth one is she had a sense of humor. So she could deal with my sarcasm and my quirky little jokes and just be able to play with it and dish it back to me. I mean, that was really important that she had the ability to do that because when she does, it really allowed me to really know that that she's uh, it just allowed me to know that we could have fun. It didn't have to always be so serious and everything. So that was important to me, and sense of humor is important because I do joke around all the time. I like to have fun, so it's important that we do that. And then last one was family. She's the type of woman that wants to have a family. She wants to have multiple kids, like 2 to 3 kids, in the next few years. And I was pretty precise. I was like, in the next 3 years, I want to have 2 to 3 kids. Do you know someone that's been saying, I really just want to find that right person and, and start having a family. I mean, and believe it or not, on all the times I shared this, some people would introduce me to the woman they thought was a good fit, and when I called them, they would say, "No, I don't want to have a family. I just want to have fun, or I just want to do this, and I'm not ready." And and it was fine to hear that because I didn't want to waste my time going on a date with someone that's not in line to what I was into. Like I was not going to wait. I wanted someone that was in line to what I wanted, and then more importantly, when we were out on the date, I wanted her to find out if I was the one that's in a line with her, and that was really key and really, really important that those things were done. Um, so yeah, so that's a little bit about um, my top 5. If you have questions, let's go ahead and do that now. You can post any questions in. And, keep in mind throughout the entire time, post some questions down below. And, I can always get those answers to you. Sometimes I'll do it on the Facebook group. Sometimes I can do it live here if we have time with our Q&A. But we covered a lot. We covered both the areas, and I think that's very crucial that that's all in place. So let's move on, and then I'm going to bring on my guests. I think they've just joined us, so that's good. There, make sure we're all there. Welcome, welcome, Chris. We're just wrapping a couple things up, and then I'll bring you on in.
Sounds good, Jeff.
All right. So all right, so any other questions that we have, let me know, post those. We'll get to you right away. And last thing I want to cover before we bring on our guest here is perfect. All right, so I want to just walk you through again what actions you need to take. So we talked about your big why, right? So the homework is do that Maslow hierarchy of needs. Get that homework done. To do that, just do exactly what I talked about. You start at the bottom of the sheet of paper. You ask yourself, what's important about finding my soulmate to you? And then fill that all in. And then at the bottom, just keep working your way up right into the question, until you get to your highest thing. So once you get that first answer, let's say, what's important about finding my soulmate so I can live a happy life, right? Then the next question that you're going to ask is the same thing. So you're going to ask, what's important about finding my soulmate to live a happy life to you? And that might be, well, so that, I have more peace in my life. And you can just keep moving down up that sheet until you reach that. So that's the first homework. I'll keep those posted later for you. And then the second one that I want you to cover is what we just talked about, which is putting your top 5 together. So identifying your soulmate. So go ahead and do that. I would spend 20 minutes just writing down everything that you got, nonstop, anything that you got. Don't lift your pencil off the paper. Just go, go, go. Whatever it is that you think you're looking for in your soulmate, do that for 20 minutes and then stop. Any attributes, any values, any qualities, anything that stands out. Then once that 20 minutes is up, then you sort it, right? You go to that prioritize like I talked about earlier, and you narrow it down, no more than 5. You can have less than 5, just not more than 5. Any more than that, it's very difficult for you to explain it to others and very difficult for them to remember, as well as for yourself to remember. And then the last little tip I'll give you is you got to practice that in the mirror until you're crystal clear on that. Because remember, when you're talking to people about your top 5, you really got to be excited about that. And you've got to be crystal clear so that they know that you're really serious about finding this person. And then that's what's going to make the biggest difference for them to go, you know what? I do know someone I think I want to introduce you to. All right. So we are at the end here. We're going to skip Q&A and we'll come back to that. And we're going to just jump in with Chris here. And let's see here. Chris, let me take you off mute here. And hopefully, I think I got this.
Hi, Jeff.
How's it going, Chris?
Good. How's my audio? Is it good?
I don't think I can hear you. Hold on 1 second. Let me turn that up.
Let me check it on my side. How is it now? Is that better?
Dun, dun, dun.
How is that? Can you hear me now? Now I can't hear you.
You can hear, how about now? Can you hear me?
You're still muted.
Still muted. So weird. Mute my mic. Testing 1, 2.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you.
You still can't hear me. Okay. Hold on 1 second here. We'll get it. Dun, dun, dun. I want to change.
Let me
You're doing
let me
good.
plug something in here and see. Okay, talk now, Jeff.
I'm here.
Now I can hear you.
You can.
Yes.
All right. I just didn't want to make sure. Awesome. Well, all right, Chris, welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your day. And
absolutely.
Why don't we just start with just share with us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you were one of my clients that I worked with, so just kind of walk me through a little bit about where you are today, who you are, and then I have a few questions I'd love to share with my group here.
Sure, that sounds good. Well, so I'm originally from the Phoenix area. I moved to San Diego in 2020, about 20 years ago. And Jeff, I think I met you in like 2006 or 2007, right around there.
Yeah.
And I think we were both doing some personal growth and development, which was really great. And that's where I got to know you from. I lived in San Diego until 2012, but in 2008, I met my soulmate. Shocker. And we lived in San Diego in 2010, in 2011, and then we had our first child, and then we ended up moving actually up to the San Francisco area, and we lived there for about 3 years, and now we currently, for the last 4 years, we reside in the Sonoma County area, so we're amongst the vineyards. And I'm an entrepreneur. I am currently 52, on my way to 53. And let's see, first and only marriage was at 43. Yeah, and coming up on our 10-year reunion in June, actually.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite activity that you love to do with your family?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, there's so many different things, but we really love to explore and go on road trips. My family loves to go out on vacation. Who doesn't? And we like to go down. I like to surf. My son loves to get out into the ocean. This week, we're heading out to Tahoe to do some snowboarding and skiing with the family. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I love playing basketball with my son. I have a younger son now who's 14 months old who isn't quite on the basketball court yet, but I love hanging out with my family and cooking and and just enjoying each other's company. It's a completely different lifestyle from when I was single. So happy guy, happy dad.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. Well, what was I kind of want to take you back in time, so to speak, kind of before you met your soulmate now, and as we started working together. And what was like the problem that you were looking to solve when you came to me and hired me? What was that for you at that time?
Well, I think so. One of the challenges is that I was in my early 40s, and I noticed at least I was aware of a pattern in my life, and that is that I wasn't much of a dater as much as I would date a little bit, but then I would end up getting into a long-term relationship. And what I mean by a long-term relationship would be like anywhere from 8 months to a year and a half, something like that, right?
Right.
Maybe longer in some scenarios, maybe 3-4 years. And what I noticed is that I was really sort of getting into relationships that I don't necessarily know the word that they were unhealthy for me. They just weren't working for me. And I don't think they were working for the other partner. And so I remember thinking to myself specifically that I have all these great skills in these other areas of my life as an entrepreneur, as somebody who, is physically fit and takes care of themselves and understands nutrition, these types of things. And, and also, a public speaker. And, but I was just failing miserably in the relationship area. And so I thought to myself, how can I take, what I'm doing in other areas, and transfer it over, to this area? And I had no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
And I was really wanting to have a breakthrough. And so, I want to say that your book came out. It was either coming out or it came out just right then at that particular time. And we had a conversation. And my attitude was if an intimate relationship, a long-term partnership is the most important relationship that you'll ever have in your life.
Yeah.
And so what am I doing messing around trying to figure this out on my own? The product of, and I love my parents and I love my mother, the product of, 2 divorces, and multiple moves and all kinds of, typical family dysfunction. I had no idea of how to look for or, what to put into to find that soulmate and how important it really was, in my life. And so that's when I decided to hire you. I was like, well, I need somebody who's spent the time. Why should I spend another year or 2 or 3 trying to figure out and read a bunch of books and hopefully maybe get it right? And I looked at your relationship, and how happy you were in your relationship. And then I also looked at your skill set and I thought, let's do this. And then that's how we, we got together and came about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I really remember about that early time like that was you were committed. Like you were like, hey, I want this, and I think that's an important thing when you're looking for your soulmate is you really got to be committed, whether you call it soulmate or whether you call it your ideal partner or,
right.
your significant other, but that you've really, that commitment thing is the one thing before I take on a client is really just like, I want to know you're committed to this. And you definitely demonstrated that. And it was crystal clear.
I remember that. Actually, I do remember that now. I remember you asking, those difficult questions and just being straightforward with me.
Yeah. Because I didn't want you to waste money. I told you, I was just like, you're either in, or you're not. Because my goal is for you to actually find that special person.
And I'm not the kind of person as an independent entrepreneur to take, a lot of direction. And so, to trust you Jeff was a big step for me, but I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember you sharing that with me is being vulnerable and just trusting me on that.
Yeah.
Was something that was a huge discovery for you.
It was.
And you told me about that, and I think that was great. Is there any other areas that that has impacted your life, and now trusting for yourself, and being vulnerable
Yeah, I think that sort of started me on a journey of on a quest, more or less, for probably a year and a half, actually, with my wife, on the aspect of being vulnerable and really actually sort of tearing down the old cliches around what a relationship could or could not be like, and in doing so we're sort of able to clear the slate, more or less, and start off from ground zero and sort of build a relationship together. Because one of the hierarchies, which was a really impactful exercise for me, one of the top fives for me was someone who's committed to ongoing growth and development. Yeah. And inside of that, everything's possible, right?
Yeah.
So that was really big for me. It really opened me up to taking a look at trusting, because I had an issue with that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us do.
Yeah. Right. It's the most vulnerable relationship you're in your life.
Yeah, exactly. So was there anything that surprised you kind of in our coaching, working through things that you didn't expect that showed up?
I don't know. So what showed up? I think what surprised me was how crystal clear, I was really able to get it. It started off, sort of shotgun approach, sort of casting a wide net.
Yeah.
And you helped me sort of bring it down and sort of crystallize, why I wanted to be in a relationship, what type of person I wanted to be in a relationship, and what type of characteristics I was really looking for. And that really kind of put me in a mindset, more or less. And I kind of was, I wouldn't say, I don't know the word surprised as much as I was pleasantly surprised that those results, came about, and happy, just like really focused as a result of it, because you're just, without any of that, I was just sort of all over the board. Like, who do I want to be with? And what's this person going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Okay. How do you think this kind of going through our coaching and working together, how is that different from just like, talking with your friends and family, beforehand?
My family has a long history of divorce. So, first, they weren't necessarily the experts I was looking to talk to. Yeah, but and God, and I love them dearly. They just weren't experts, in the area of relationship. And I had some friends, who were married, but they didn't, seem like they were that happy. And for the most part, what really differed is most of the people that I talked to, friends and family, they always had sort of a wishy-washy, that's kind of love, and you just got to hang in there, and and someday you'll find the right person, and they're going to show up, and or why don't you try a dating app, or what I mean. It was just all this other stuff that I already tried, and didn't really work, and I was failing at it miserably. So the structure and the insight was radically different. I was taking an approach that really got me focused and serious about looking for, because there's always this there's nothing wrong with it, but there's the romantic notion of finding your soulmate and just walking down the street and it hits you on the head like an acorn.
Yeah.
And, the chances of that happening are just there. I wanted to up my chances. I wanted to up my odds of being with the right person, and avoid being with not necessarily the wrong person, but the person that might not necessarily work for me in my relationship.
Yeah.
So that's how it differed. Yeah.
I definitely, I like what you're saying. You're upping the odds. I mean, you're putting yourself in a higher probability when you're crystal clear on those things. And I think that's an important factor you just said there, because I mean, when you have that laser focus, there's just so much more that you can see than you do to just wandering around hoping. I always say it's like going to an airport and hadn't decided which destination you're going to. It's like, I want to go to a beach.
Yeah.
There's millions of beaches.
I know.
Which one?
I think about the random places, that I had met, other long-term relationships, at like, an office or, a bar or, a grocery store or just whatever. And it just was just this randomness, like, oh, we're bumping around, like hoping that you find somebody, I mean, it makes it work. And so, just upping the odds and then really being crystal clear, I think was the big difference. It was great. Yeah.
So now that you found your soulmate, right? How's it been for you, living that life, compared to what it was before? I mean, how's that been impacted? I mean, I know it's been tremendous.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I was ready. I mean, that was the big thing, right? And I was ready. And I think I'd really kind of been ready for about maybe 4 or 5 years, like really ready. And that's saying something for a man sometimes,
Yeah.
Especially with me, and my commitment issues. So I think, being ready for that, and then being able to find the right person and then have that amazing committed relationship where we're co-creating, a lot of stuff in our life. And there are lots of ups and downs, and the in relationships always, it doesn't matter. But it goes back to the hierarchy that you really worked on. And one of my commitments was that I wanted to be with someone who was committed to ongoing growth and development. So my experience now is that, my wife is constantly growing, and stretching herself, from, physically and, mentally and spiritually, and from an emotional intelligence perspective. And then I am as well. I'm doing the same thing. So me 10 years ago compared to now, 10 years in a relationship, it didn't look exactly like I thought it was going to, but because I was able to just willing to let go of what this relationship would mature and grow into, it's been just the most, amazing journey.
Yeah.
And, my wife has been a real rock, for me, through, all kinds of difficult periods in my life. And I'd like to think, obviously, vice versa. And so, because I didn't really know exactly what kind of a relationship would look like, but I had these ideas and this hierarchy of the attributes that I really wanted, I find that those attributes are working really well in the relationship. So I don't remember the old, Chris so much as I do the father, and the husband, that I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still very, very, very connected with that. I'm just, oh gosh.
You experienced it as well.
I remember all the early conversations. So, and like you said, that commitment thing was very serious for you. I know, even when you identified that, Paula is the one,
Yeah.
it was like, there's still that commitment. It's like, can I commit to that?
Yeah.
And we had those conversations, and that was I think something I just really acknowledge you. And I think that goes back to you being ready,
Yep.
and trusting, that really made the huge difference, around that. Um,
It's true.
is there, well, let me ask you this. Is there anything like, well, I guess let's share this with them. I mean, how long did it take you, to find it?
Actually, it wasn't that long. I think we started coaching, I want to say in the winter, or maybe, late fall or winter of 2007. And one of the, by distinguishing my 5 top attributes and really sticking to that, when I was dating before, I would continue to go on dates with, with women that probably, if I got, 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, and there was the iffy on the other 2, I would stick with it. And then, I would and then I was delaying time. That was the hardest part for me, actually, was to just, I don't call it speed dating, but, you helped me develop, or work on a series of questions or conversations to help me decipher and sort of find out what this person is about. And that also made the dates much more interesting. And it was, I think it was beneficial for the other person as well. This certainly, whatever their intentions were, they also don't want to spend any time, too much more time with somebody that may or may not be a long-term, potential for them.
Yeah.
And so that was a big, sort of shift for me.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and like you said, relationship, this is your most significant relationship in your life, choosing
Yeah.
your soulmate. And, the time and the money that goes into that is crucial. You really got to make sure you're really picking someone for the long run,
That's
and
right.
and more importantly, the other thing I like to say is, they're picking you the same exact way.
That's
And,
right.
and that was the reasons, we did those conversations, and I watched you through those things, is because you had to self-discover that is she saying you're the fit for her? Because
That's right.
if both of those are there, then it's easy. It was easier for you to make that commitment. I think that was one of the tipping things that you shared with me. I thought was huge.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
yeah. Awesome. All right. Is there anything else, you'd like to share, from your journey that you think would be beneficial for others who, might be considering this or on the fence or anything like that?
I would go back to saying that, if you're ready and you're committed, to finding that significant other or your soulmate, or maybe even you're not ready or committed, you going on sort of, I wouldn't call it a journey, or I guess you just call it a journey. But
Yeah.
going on this journey with Jeff and really learning the distinctions that he taught me, I think will help provide you I should say, give you a lot more clarity in your life about relationships. And even if you're only dating, it's a lot more fun to date with people that you're clear about, you want to be with. And so, regardless of what you're looking for, an intimate, close, personal relationship with someone for the rest of your life is the most important relationship in your life. Period.
Yeah.
There's none other. It's going to make or break your happiness in many ways, and make and break you financially. and make and break you with regards to just, how you feel, your soul feels, and and your health and your well-being and your psychological state of mind. And without it, you're really just sort of, fishing in the dark in many ways,
Yeah.
just trying to get lucky. So I highly recommend, going through Jeff's distinctions and listening to his coaching. You might not want to hear it. And that's something you have to deal with, something you need to look into. But if you're ready, listen, and follow it to a T. And I can guarantee you that he'll put you in the right place for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And, Chris, you did all the work, man. I just, yeah, we worked through everything, but you were ready and you were committed and you did the work. And I think that's another huge distinction for people listening is, you've got to get in the game and actually do the steps that are there.
Right.
So, and I'm just blown away about your relationship and where you're going, and having your 2 kids now, and just all the things that you're sharing that you guys are doing. I mean, it's just, to me, it's awesome. It's like the most gratifying thing to hear, because that's all I wanted, is for you to have that soulmate and live that ideal life. And I just love hearing your stories around that. So
it's pretty amazing. And, I couldn't have done it without your coaching. I've got something I could show your audience here. Actually, it sits on my desk.
That's so beautiful.
Years ago, that was our wedding picture in upstate New York.
Nice.
And they actually ended up using that picture at the establishment for years to promote, weddings and stuff like that. But unbeknownst to us, we came back 3-4 years later and we were postered all over, and it was just, so that's it. That's what's possible.
Woo, awesome. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, one last question before I let you go.
Yeah.
So how did you propose?
Oh, first off, I designed the ring, and it was amazing. And it fit her characteristic, and we went to a small little town in Arizona, Bisbee, Arizona, which is where I'm from. Before I went to go see our family, we went to a bed and breakfast, and we had gotten there the night before, and then we were laying around in bed, and we were talking about, in the morning, we were talking about, just the future and what we could create together and how powerful we were. And I reached over to grab the ring, and I brought it over, and I said, yeah, I agree with everything that you said and everything that we talked about. Let's make this official. Let's you and I live the rest of our life together, and let's live into possibility, and and let's create the life of our dreams. And she broke down, and she didn't cry, but she got emotional, and she put the ring on, and we ordered champagne and strawberries, and you know what I mean? And we hung out in bed all day with the ring. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful way. Yeah. Beautiful way. Well, again, I just want to thank you, Chris, for coming on and sharing your story. Yes, absolutely. You too.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Well, let's keep in touch. And like I said, next time you're in town, let's get together for sure.
For sure. Thanks again, Jeff. Like I said, I'm 10 years into bliss. Thanks for the coaching.
You're welcome, man. All right. Take care.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Bye. Awesome. All right. So that was Chris. I just, again, for you guys, this is your time. You got to look at the things that we've looked at over the last 4 days and just ask yourself, am I really playing full out in this game? Am I really going for it and really pushing myself to that next level? And if it is, then great. keep doing that. If you haven't, or if you're just so playing, be truthful with yourself and take it to that next action and do the steps that we've talked about. You have all the homework assignments already lined up, so start doing them. And if there's any questions you have, again, submit those questions. I am dying to answer whatever you've got so I can help you move forward even quicker and really make that happen. So again, I want to just thank Chris again for sharing that, coming on, taking his time. He's just, again, you should listen to some of the wisdom that he said. There's a lot of key things that he said that he got that are crucial from some of the things I've already shared with you to do. And you can get those breakthroughs immediately just by doing those actions. So I'm going to go to Q&A really quick. And I believe I have that in place. There it is. Okay, so let's start with a couple questions that I have here and work through them. So let's see here. Okay, so where do most people say that they're stuck? It was my question out there. And a lot of them said identifying your soulmate. And then the second group said they had more special situations. But it's great, identifying. We talked a lot about that. And, Justina said that, she's a lifelong learner. She's committed to co-creating relationships, kind, honest, vulnerable, authentic, taking action for what she wants, and sexy. So those are the attributes she's looking for, and I think they're good. They're really good. I mean, again, I would go back and Justina, go back and just retake a look at your big list and just double check that if they were. Here's the question I'd like to ask, is if they met this quality or this attribute, is that going to knock off these 5 other items that are on your list? So you're looking for those core ones that if they did that, then everything else would fall down. Like Chris was saying, I think was really crucial, which is if they're into growth and development, if they're into growing and being open and looking on how they can better themselves, then everything's possible because they can always be growing around that and elevating that relationship. So that's a very good question, and I think that's a good start for your your top 5 items. And let's see. Joan said, actually, I have not, I have decided not to look for or expect anything. Sometimes the journey is best to travel alone. Well, I kind of disagree with that. And Joan, here's what I'll say to that. One, consider that maybe the reason you're saying that is there's other barriers that are blocking you from actually pushing yourself forward. I think I mentioned it earlier, like, you may go out on one date and find it's not a fit, and another date, you may have a longer relationship, like 3 months or 6 months or 8 months, like Chris was talking about. However it is, you start to get in a funk where it's just kind of like, do I really want to do this? And you start to get in this place where you start bringing more reasons and justifications like we talked about yesterday, and then that depresses you and kind of gets you resigned about the whole thing of finding your soulmate. And then you usually justify that by saying, well, when I bumped into that right person, then I'll know it was meant to be. That's someone that's typically, if you really looked and went to the core of everything, when they get to the end, they're really just giving up. There's a sense of hopelessness there, or a sense of, they're not worthy enough, or something that's there behind that really holds you back. So, Joan, I would have you take a look and start doing some of those exercises that we talked about yesterday as well as today, so that you can really get the full benefit. And then my advice is, once you do those exercises, then let's jump in again and see if you still feel that way. So I hope that helped you. And again, please submit your questions both on Facebook or here, and then I can definitely, get to those for you and let you know. So let me see if there's any other comments or questions. I think that is it for right now. So that's all we have for today. So again, I just want to acknowledge Chris for coming on and sharing that. I think that made a huge, huge difference. And, we're moving on. And to summarize everything very quickly, you want to identify your soulmate. You want to review your journal notes, go back to some of those notes and all the exercises you've been doing. And if you don't have your journal, get a journal, start writing in your journal, and start doing this, and keep a journal just for your soulmate. That way you're really keeping it all in one place of where your focus is at. And then do your homework. We already talked about that. If you don't do the homework, you're really not performing at your highest and best self. So you're missing out with that. Submit questions on Facebook. You can submit questions on my YouTube become a YouTube subscriber on my channel. And then don't forget to have fun with all this. I mean, you're out on the journey to find your soulmate. Shouldn't you have fun with all of it? Make sure you have fun. And I will see you tomorrow. Oops, I think I lost everything. There we go. All right, so I will see you tomorrow. And if you have any other questions or anything, please post those on Facebook. And remember, this is the 7 days to finding your soulmate challenge. I really challenge you to push yourself to that next level and make those things happen. Again, my name is Jeff Krahl. I am an international business consultant, certified high performance coach, and best-selling author of The Fifth Power for Relationships. And I want to help you find your soulmate. So go back, watch those recordings, catch yourself up if you haven't, and keep doing the homework, submit your questions, and I look forward to tomorrow's session, again, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'll work on getting a few more guests. I think that worked out well. I got a lot of great comments of people saying that worked out. If that worked for you, go ahead and post a note as well. I'd love to hear that, what you thought about, Chris coming on and speaking and sharing and going from there. All right. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow, and make it a great day.